Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for him, this wouldn't be possible. I got a special guest on the panel tonight with me, who's also a boxing historian, a Puerto Rican brother, fellow Philly Rican, my boy Masuma TV. Tell them where they can find you at, bro.
What's going on, Lo? Yeah, I mean, you can find me on YouTube at Mazuma TV, Mazuma TV. I mean, social media, I'm on Instagram at Mark dot Mazuma, Mazuma, man. That's where you can find me at. What's going on, Lo?
I'm just chilling, man. I just got a very interesting topic that we can chop it up about, being that we boxing fans and not only boxing fans, we're boxing historians. We're not the type of channels that get up on here and talk narratives and stuff like that. We talk about technical boxing. We talk about hardcore boxing. And right now, throughout the history of boxing, Puerto Rico has been one of the best Latin nations to produce great fighters. When we talk about Latin countries, Latin nations, we got to talk about Puerto Rico, Mexico's up there, Argentina, Colombia, Cuba, Nicaragua, and with that being said, I want to talk about what fights, what wins, what are the best wins in the history of Puerto Rican boxing, and what we feel is the biggest win ever in Puerto Rican boxing. Puerto Rico has been on a drought in quite some time as far as elite pound for pound type of fighters since Miguel Cotto. Since Miguel Cotto, the last, I would say, Hall of Fame type of career we had has came from Philadelphia and Danny Garcia. And we got Shakur Stevenson, who's a half African American, half Puerto Rican fighter. Whether people want to claim him or not, Shakur Stevenson is still half Puerto Rican. But when we talk about Puerto Rican fighters, we talk about Puerto Rico from the homeland, from the motherland. So we're talking about some of the greatest wins ever for Puerto Rican boxers. So you're more than welcome to name some of the wins that you know about, and we can break them down. The significance of those wins.
Yeah, you forgot about Amanda Serrano, too, but I know you were just talking about Amanda.
Amanda Serrano.
Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out to
Amanda
Amanda
Serrano.
Serrano.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
she's done some historic shit. You know what I mean? Especially last year, but um some great notable wins for Puerto Rico, man. I mean, when I really think about this, I think about the greatest Puerto Ricans to ever box. You know what I mean? So I look at the Wilfredo Gomez's of the world, Tito Trinidad, who's my personal favorite fighter ever, Miguel Cotto, Wilfred Benitez. You know what I mean? I look over these guys' wins, man, and all of these guys got some amazing wins. You know what I'm saying? If we talking about Wilfredo Gomez, I love the Lupe Pintor fight. You
That
know what
was
I
a big
mean?
one.
I love that fight. I watched that fight nonstop. You know what I mean? That wasn't my era or anything like that, but
Me neither.
I definitely was tuned in on YouTube and was studying Gomez and shit like that. Even if you want to go back to Edwin Rosario, man, he had some solid wins, But I mean, Tito Trinidad, the Oscar De La Hoya fight, that was a real important fight for Puerto Rico to win, and he was able to win that and become unified. I think that was unification at 147, correct?
It was, and what's crazy?
What's
That
up?
fight, that fight could have been undisputed because at the time, right? First of all, let me give a shout out to Tito Donis. He said greatest win for Puerto Rico is that Margarito rematch for Cotto. He got his lick back. I could say that's definitely one of them. I wouldn't say the greatest, but to piggyback on what you said, Mark, um, he was talking about the fight between Wilfredo Gomez and Lupe Pinto, right? I think he got a phone call. You still there? Yo, Mark, you hear me? Make sure my audio. You can hear me. Anyway,
It's kind of choppy, bro.
yeah, maybe because where you at. You hear me now?
It's kind of choppy. I'm having trouble hearing you.
I don't know why. Try to log off, try to log back on, see how that works. But to piggyback of what he was talking about, he said he said Wilfredo Gomez against Lupe Pintor. Lupe Pintor was a tough Mexican fighter who was the champion at one point. And this was a fight that Wilfredo Gomez was coming back from his loss to Salvador Sanchez. Up to that point, Wilfredo Gomez was defeating a lot of Mexican fighters. Yo, Mark, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So you was talking about Wilfredo Gomez and Pintor. His name was damn. His name was Guadalupe Pintor, right? And Wilfredo
I think his
Gomez,
name was
correct?
Lupe.
Lupe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pintor. Yeah, Guadalupe
Lupe
Pintor.
Pintor. Yeah,
Yes. Wilfredo Gomez prior to that was already building a reputation of beat Mexican fighters. He had a fight in Puerto Rico against a Mexican by the name of Carlos Zarate, who at the time might have been maybe 55 and 0, with probably
yeah,
54 or 53 knockouts, right? Like that. And
yeah. He had
Gomez,
it was something. It was something along those lines. Yeah,
yeah, and Gomez was a fighter that had 100% knockout ratio. Wilfredo Gomez, hands down, is the greatest 122-pound fighter in history of boxing.
that's a fact.
And that's a weight class where we had guys like Manny Pacquiao competed there. We had Juan Manuel Marquez. We had Marco Antonio Barrera, Eric Morales. So this is not a weight class where just anybody competed. We had some real legends competing that weight class. So in order for a fighter to be considered the greatest at a certain weight class, a talent-rich weight class, that speaks volumes for that fighter. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct, and I'll go as far to say that Wilfredo Gomez is arguably the greatest Puerto Rican fighter ever. Point blank, period. Not just 122. He might be him and Tito Trinidad in my eyes are the greatest Puerto Ricans to ever box. That's just me.
I agree with you. As far as greatness in their total career, I personally rate Wilfredo Gomez ahead of Trinidad, but I have Trinidad as being more popular, more of the people's champions. But when we talk about accolades, we talk about title defenses, level of dominance, we definitely got to go with Wilfredo Gomez.
I
And
agree.
Tito Donez said when Carlos Quintana beat Paul Williams, you know what? I forgot about that. That was definitely a good
Carlos
win for Puerto
Quintana,
Rico.
yeah, I forgot. Yo, I met him in Bethlehem, bro,
Yeah,
the Wind Creek Casino out there in Bethlehem, man. That was a cool dude right there. But I didn't even get to know. I mean, and that was just Wilfredo Gomez that I noticed was a great win. We could look over at Tito Trinidad, like I said, Oscar De La Hoya was a great win. His win against Fernando Vargas, that was another great win.
absolutely.
Tito Trinidad had a shit ton of wins. Obakar, Pernell Whitaker, Hector Camacho, like his resume was stacked, bro. So those are some great wins that you can mention along with Puerto Rican boxing as well. Miguel Cotto, Zab Judah, Paulie Malignaggi,
Shane
um,
Mosley.
uh, yeah, Shane. Yo, like he beat some guys, man. Like these guys had incredible resumes. So when we talking about the greatest wins of all time, it's pretty difficult because each great Puerto Rican fighter that we seen come up has some great wins against some notable guys. So that's what makes this a great discussion because we could really take this anywhere and we can have a valid argument for each one. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I seen Tito Donis, he said greatest win for PR, Margarito rematch with Cotto. That was about as sweet, you know, they
That
they
was
said revenge is
important.
like the sweetest joy. Like you could just see it in Cotto's face how relieved he was after defeating Margarito, man.
That was a
Like
very
that
important win
was
for us because
yes
the
it
way
was.
Margarito
Yes it
won that
was.
fight, that first fight, let me tell you, at that time when that fight took place, I was living in Jersey. I had a two-bedroom apartment in West New York, New Jersey, and that area in
Yeah.
Jersey was a lot of It used to be a lot of Cubans out there, but at that time, a lot of Mexicans took over that area. And I remember all the time I used to go to the store, to the liquor store, and all that. And I used to talk to my Mexican friends. We was like, "Yo, listen, man, I was like, listen, Cotto gonna win that fight. I was backing Cotto's play like crazy. They was all Margarito balls. And I remember after that fight, bro, all I remember they were outside screaming and hollering. They were going crazy. And then the way the Cotto lost that fight, even though later on, um, we can say that fight could have been disputed based on the controversy. But nevertheless, Margarito did beat Cotto into submission. He took a knee. So that was a hard loss. Like for me, out of the fights that I watched with some of my favorite fighters growing up, that had to be one of the most heartbreaking losses that I ever witnessed. Was that Miguel Cotto losing
Yeah,
to Margarito?
Margarito broke the island heart that night for
He
sure.
did.
He broke the whole island heart that night. I remember I was in, I grew up, obviously in my mom's house. We stood in the same crib my whole life. It was just my whole family was in the living room just watching the fight. And when you watch that first fight, Cotto was outboxing him. He had some good moments, but Margarito was just relentless with the pressure and the body shots, and he was eating every big shot Cotto hit him with. And Cotto, he looked like he just ran out of gas, and he accumulated a lot of damage in the process. So, and this was an undefeated Cotto who at one point in time, the island held up very proudly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt like he couldn't be touched at one point. You know what I'm saying? So to see him take a knee, bro, it was kind of like Earl Spence when he lost the Bud, man. Just to see him go out like that, it was sad. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Cotto at that time, if I'm not correct, Cotto was like around top three pound for pound going into that fight. Remember, he had that little run. He became a champion at 140. He went to
Hmm.
147. He won a vacant belt against Quintana, which was a good win. Puerto Rico versus Puerto Rico was a good win because Quintana was coming off of a victory over an undefeated Colombian by the name of Joel Julio. Cotto stopped him. Cotto went on to beat
Hmm.
Zab, became a pay-per-view attraction. He had a fight in between that. He beat Shane Mosley, had a fight in between that, and then the Margarito lost. So going into that Margarito fight, people felt like Cotto was probably one win away from possibly fighting Floyd Mayweather at that time. Tito Donis, my oldest boxing coach, trained Omar Henry and told me the doctors don't clear Margarito to fight the rematch, but Bob cut a check. He was there. I believe that. Sound realistic. Now, we talk about Trinidad, right? You mentioned some of Trinidad's wins. You said Fernando Vargas, right? You said Oscar De La Hoya. You said Hector Camacho. You can hear me?
Yeah, it was a
All
little
right,
choppy, but I
yeah.
hear you right now.
For me, if Trinidad would have beaten Oscar De La Hoya in more convincing fashion, I would go on the limb to say that probably Trinidad over Oscar De La Hoya might possibly be the best win in Puerto Rican boxing history. But due to the fight having controversy lingering over that fight, I wouldn't rate that fight as I wouldn't rate that win as the greatest win for Puerto Rican boxing, but it's definitely one of the bigger wins for Puerto Rican boxing. How you scored that fight, by the way?
Times, man. I always find myself like scoring a draw. You know what I mean? But I do think that those later rounds did cost Oscar. You know what I mean? Because I thought there was a few early rounds that could have been swung either way. Then he gave up like a good 3 or 4 rounds at the end. So I can see why they gave it to Trinidad because it is a championship fight. They were both undefeated champions. So you gotta win every round when it's to the uh when the fight is that big of a fight. You know what I'm saying? But it was a close
Yeah.
competitive fight, man. I'm understanding the people that felt like Oscar won and shit like that. But it was a close controversial fight, man. But I always find myself scoring at a draw for some reason.
It's crazy. When I first started watching that fight, I was sort of like scoring that fight a draw, but that was also me being like biased towards Trinidad. After watching that fight just a few years ago without biased eyes, I actually scored it 115, 113 for Oscar. The
So
first
7-5. That's still a close fight though, man.
Yeah,
7-5.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
9 rounds, I probably gave Cotto 2 out of the first 9 rounds, and then I
Trinidad,
gave
right?
Cotto. I mean, excuse me, Trinidad. I gave Trinidad 2 of the first 9 rounds, and then I gave Trinidad 10, 11, and 12. But at the end of the day, I
Okay.
scored it for Oscar, but it was a close fight. Um, it's like a fight where a lot of people will say things where if Oscar would have stepped on the gas late, he would have won that fight. I beg to differ because Trinidad was the type of fighter that he had a gas tank. He would not get tired. He saved his energy. I feel if Oscar would have engaged with Trinidad in the late rounds after exuding so much energy moving around, I think he would have given Trinidad opportunities to get off some big shots. And I think
Yeah, that.
Trinidad
Hmm.
probably would have stopped him if Oscar would have fought him in the late rounds.
Yeah, you couldn't. Oscar had a strong left hook and all that, man. But he wouldn't have been able to bang with Tito, man. At
No.
147, there's very few fighters in history that would have been able to stand in front of Tito. You know what I'm saying? So I think what Oscar did was smart. I think if you'd have sat there and tried to go blow for blow with Tito, Tito would have clipped him. You know what I'm saying? And Oscar admitted that he felt his power and he ain't want to engage. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, yeah, he knew what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Trinidad had some great wins because even though people his stock sort of went down a little bit because people felt he didn't win that fight cleanly, he redeemed himself when he fought Fernando
Oh,
Vargas, and he
yeah.
fought Fernando Vargas, who was a lot of people would say that Fernando Vargas wasn't ready, but I beg to differ because going into that fight, Fernando Vargas, even though he didn't have that many fights, he had wins. He had a win over Ike Corte, right?
He
Convincingly.
was he
Who
was
had,
world champion, right?
yeah, he was a world champion in
Yeah, Tito
154.
was coming and Tito was coming up in weight.
Trinidad Corte going into, Fernando Vargas going into that fight had beaten Ike Corte. He beaten Winky Wright, who went on to beat Tito. He beat Yuri Boy Campos, who Tito beat also, who was another big win. And he also beat Raul Marquez. So for me, Fernando Vargas might have been more ready for Trinidad than Canelo Alvarez was going into the Floyd fight, based on the
Oh no, that's
guys
a
that
fact.
Vargas beat going into that fight. You feel me?
That's a fact. Yeah, yeah. And I was gonna mention that when too. Tito Trinidad versus Yuri Boy Campos. Yuri Boy Campos was like 56-0 with 50 knockouts. So yeah, that's definitely a big win too, man. Because Tito was real young at that time. He faced controversy early. He got knocked down in the early rounds. He got up and was able
Yeah.
to stop him. Knocked him out on his feet too. So that's a great win for Puerto Rico boxing. But I don't know if you're ready to ask the ultimate question yet. But um I got my best Puerto Rican win of all time in the tuck
Which one
already.
is it? What
You
what
ready?
is it?
You want me to tell you right now?
Yeah, we could break it down because I'm gonna give you mine too, but we can break them all down. But yeah, man,
I think my number one win of all time for Puerto Rico boxing is Wilfred Benitez and Cervantes.
Cervantes,
Yeah, when he won the world
Antonio
title.
Cervantes,
Yeah, I
140.
think that I think that's the best win in Puerto Rico history because till that day, and I don't think that record will ever be broken, man. Wilfred Benitez did some legendary shit, bro. Youngest world champion in boxing history, 17 years old, bro. Ain't nobody breaking that, not in this era at least. Ain't
No,
nobody breaking that record, bro. And that was the 15 round era. 17 years old, boxing grown ass men in the 15 round era and coming out on top like that's historical, bro. Like that's all time great shit right there. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
So I got that as the number one win, man, because not only was it a great win, it was the
It's a
fashion.
record.
Like
It's a
it's a
record-breaking
record.
win that
Yes,
might
man.
never been broken again. Big
That not
shout out to
only
Jackie
that
Hernandez,
not
real
only
quick.
transcended Puerto Rico boxing, but like just boxing
The
as a
Guinness
whole,
Book of
man.
World Records, bro. That's the Guinness Book of
Yeah,
World Records.
you
Shout
can't
out
you
to
can't
Jackie
deny it.
Hernandez on the chat right there. What up, Jackie? Um, you know what's crazy? Because the win that I had in mind, one of the wins I had in mind, actually had Wilfredo Benitez as well, but it wasn't that one. But now looking at it, that's definitely a good conversation because Benitez became a world champion at the age of 17 years old. And not only did he win the championship, Mark, he beat a fighter who's a Hall of Famer, who's considered one of the greatest junior welterweights of all time. Because Antonio Cervantes, who people know about boxing, he wasn't just some bell holder, bro.
Nah.
He was a killer. He was a certified killer at 140 from Colombia. One of the best fighters ever at 140. But Wilfredo Benitez, the other win that I have for him that's up there as one of the top Puerto Rican wins has to be his win
Roberto
over
Duran.
Roberto Duran.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was gonna say that too. I was gonna
Exactly.
say that too, but yeah, like Roberto Duran was like what 74-2 at the time, bro. Like he was that's a and he made it look so easy,
Yeah.
so easy, bro. Roberto Duran is an all time great. So that was
Roberto
another
Duran
one.
to me is the greatest Latin fighter of all time overall, in
Whew.
my opinion.
So that's a great
But
one to
that
have
win,
there.
absolutely. But there's another Puerto Rican win that we got, right? Over Roberto Duran that we ain't mentioned that I feel might be the greatest. And I'm gonna talk about a Puerto Rican fighter by the name of Esteban de Jesus. You heard of him,
Yes,
right?
of course.
He beat Roberto Duran at 135 pounds, and Duran was at his best at 135. He beat him. He took his O away. The only thing that kind of like takes the win away as far as being the best win is the fact that it was a non-title fight. But that's definitely one of the greatest wins ever for Puerto Rican boxing. And that's why this topic is so great because there's so many wins that Puerto Rican fighters have. Cause that's a great win right there. They
It
have a
is.
trilogy.
Yeah, but sometimes, like belts give it that extra, like, you know what I mean, pizzazz and shit like that. But,
Yeah.
belts or not, that's still Roberto Duran. You know what I'm
He
saying?
dropped
And
him
not,
too.
not, not only that, it's Roberto Duran at 135 pounds, who's
Exactly.
arguably the greatest, arguably the greatest lightweight ever. So, that I mean, belt or not, that's still Roberto. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Exactly.
even think that really need a belt. The name speaks for itself. So, yeah, that one, shit, I ain't even gonna lie to you. That one went over the head. I ain't even catch that one. But
And
that's a good
mind,
one too. Shit.
and mind you, we was talking about fighters being considered the greatest in a division, right? Like we have a lot of great fighters, Mark, a lot of legends, but they're not considered the greatest in any. Like I'm gonna give you an example, Manny Pacquiao, right? For me, Manny Pacquiao is an all-time top 10 for me, right? But I don't have Manny as the greatest in any weight class. So for Roberto Duran to be considered the greatest lightweight of all times speaks a lot because that's a weight class where we had Pretty Boy Floyd, we had Pernell Whitaker, we had
Shane
another Puerto
Mosley.
Rican great, Shane Mosley, Hector Macho Camacho, Julio Cesar Chavez, Carlos Ortiz, another great Puerto Rican legend. I mean, I could go on and on. Um,
Yeah.
Lomachenko to today's guys, Devin Haney, T.O., Shakur. A lot of great fighters come from 135. So for Roberto Duran to be considered by many as arguably the greatest lightweight of all time speaks volumes of his greatness. And the fact that what's his name? He beat Duran at 135, Esteban de Jesus, that speaks volumes of what he did. But then we got other wins, right? We got Hector Macho Camacho. He got
Yep.
some great wins. I was just watching his fight when he moved up to 135 to take on Jose Luis Ramirez, who had eventually defeated Pernell Whitaker, even though it was very controversial. Camacho beat the brakes off Jose Luis Ramirez, who only had 4 losses and maybe 90 fights at that time. You seen that fight?
Man, I did. I used to watch them fights with my pop, but it's very blurry. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I used to watch it with my pop. That's really where I got a lot of my like Puerto Rican history and stuff like that. You know what I mean? From my dad put me on to everybody. He had me watching Edwin Rosario like a month ago, just watching like all his old fights and Edwin Rosario's fight with Hector Camacho. So
That
I
was a
was I
great
was
fight.
yo, he had Camacho knocked out, bro. Like a couple
Nobody hurt
times.
Camacho like that to this day. Even though
Yo,
Camacho
Camacho
won
was
that fight, he
out.
was hurt.
Yo, he was getting rocked. And there's some people that thought Edwin beat him, but I was watching that, John, and I was like, yeah, man, Hector a dog, bro. Yeah, he a
He
dog.
is. He won too many rounds for me at the end of the day, but that was definitely a close fight. And lately, like I said, I've been watching Camacho a lot lately because growing up as a kid, I remember watching him back then, but I remember everybody telling me, the narrative was that Camacho runs and stuff like that. But when you compare his style of boxing, Camacho didn't really run. He moved around a lot, but he used to throw punches while he was on his toes. That's a lost art. Like you see guys move around and they'll just move around to the point where it looks like they're borderline running. Camacho would move and throw combinations while he was on the move.
Yeah, bro. That's why I don't even like pay anybody mind when they say shit like that. You know what I mean? Because there'd be a lot less of this talk about motherfuckers running if people knew how to cut off the ring. You see what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, man. Like I always hear that. Oh, that guy's running. Oh, he don't want to fight. Oh, all he's doing is running. All right, well, do something about it then. Nowadays, these fighters be blatantly making excuses as to why. Yeah, I mean, they don't want to fight somebody. Oh, all he does is run. He doesn't want to fight. Oh, he doesn't want to fight, bro. Learn how to cut off the ring and make him fight them. You see what
That's
I
a
mean?
lost art.
Yo, like I never heard Tito Trinidad say somebody ran. He went and he went and he got him. You see what I mean? So I don't know,
That's a
man.
lost art though, Mark. That's a lost art. Like,
Yeah, that's a lost art that need to be found.
you know what it is though? A lot of fighters right today, like we don't see as many great fighters we have today. We haven't seen anybody that could really do everything. Like when you look at great fighters, shout out to Joni Faints, my God, live was good. Let's go, yes sir, let's go. So like I was saying, when Sugar Ray Leonard bursted upon the scene, Sugar Ray Leonard was a slick fighter, a counterpuncher who fought off the outside with the jab. But when he fought Tommy Hearns, who was also versatile, who showed he can box off the back foot and use the jab, Sugar Ray Leonard switched up his game plan and became the attacker
Hmm.
effectively. You feel what I'm saying? Pernell Whitaker, he fought all his life. He was a slick boxer on the back foot. He fought a Cuban fighter, right, by the name of his last name was Hurtado. This was the fight before the Oscar De La Hoya fight. And Ball was giving Pernell Whitaker a difficult fight. He was moving around, throwing awkward, slapping punches. He was winning that fight. Pernell Whitaker pressed forward and got him out of there in the last round. You seen that fight?
Yes, I did.
So that shows you that fighters back then were more versatile. They can do more. Even Marvin Hagler, he was more of a brawler, but when he had to box, he could box. Today we got fighters that we see like one of my favorites, Teofimo Lopez and Jaron Ennis. Those two fighters are probably the most explosive, um, athletic fighters on the back foot. But when they both face guys that can move around, they didn't look as good in cutting the ring off. So this is a lost art, along with infighting as well. And some fighters don't even use the jab. But the fighters back then, they covered all the bases. Even if they weren't as athletic, they knew how to do everything when it was all said and done, when it was time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we still got to see that about Jerron Ennis. There was only one fight where somebody actually took that approach with him. But yeah, I agree with your point overall, though, especially with Tiafimo. It definitely is a lost art. You know what I mean? But it's something that can be perfected. You know, it can be worked on and it can be done.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. You just need to add it to your arsenal. You feel me? So yeah, you're right.
As long as they're willing to work on that, man. And then we got
Yeah.
some other Puerto Rican greats now. We're going to talk about Miguel Cotto, right? Miguel
Yes.
Cotto got some great wins. The Paulie win was a good win, but as far as his great wins, the Zab Judah win was definitely a great win due to the fact that it was a New York fight against a slick black fighter from New York who was a decorated fighter, former undisputed champion. The Shane Mosley fight was big, but another big Puerto Rican fight besides those and the Margarito fight that we didn't mention is his win over Sergio Martinez. Even though Sergio was hurt with the knee, Sergio was still the favorite, and Cotto became the only Puerto Rican fighter to be a four-division world champion when he beat Sergio Martinez.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, yeah. The knees was shot with Sergio Martinez, but you know what I mean? He was still the WBC champion. Am I correct?
He was. That's how Cotto became a
Yeah, yeah,
champion.
yeah. That's it. That's how he became champion. Was the only. I think until Amanda Serrano came and did her little thing. You know what I mean? He became a 4 division world champion. So yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one for sure. I like that. I like that one.
Troy King, shout out. We in here. Cotto was huge. Yes, he was. And you know what I noticed about Cotto too? Mark, Cotto was a shorter fighter, but even though he was short, he was still able to out jab guys that were taller than him as well.
Because it's not necessarily about height that dictates whether you got a great jab or not. You see what I mean? Like, I was well, I'm 5'9", but I don't have the longest reach. But I always found a way to utilize my jab, whether it was a guy who was my height, shorter than me, or taller than me. You just gotta know how to go about it. You see what I mean? When you learn how to get that timing on that jab, the different types of jabs, whether we throwing the up jab, the slip jab, the fast jab, the flicking jab, there's different ways to variate it, man. Putting feints behind the jab and stuff like that. It's an art.
Jab with your head off the line, like like
Yeah, yeah,
like
that's what I
Dwight
mean.
Muhammad Cowie.
Yeah, yeah. The slip jab. That's what I mean. The head off the line jab. We call it the slip jab in Philly. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So you know that once you understand that, and once you start putting some unpredictability behind it, like throwing in feints and things like that, just throwing off your
exactly.
opponent's timing and stuff, you can definitely get that off. And another thing about Cotto that people didn't really talk about, he had great mobility as well, man. Whenever he decided to use it, he could take you for a walk. He could walk you down, beat you up. He could make you run into shots. You know what I mean? And he was intelligent as well. I understand that he lost the Canelo Alvarez fight, but watching that fight, it was like a chess match, man. I love watching that fight, bro.
It
Just
was
too
competitive,
intelligent. Yeah, it was competitive, and it really
high
showed both
skills,
guys' wits in there. You know what I'm saying? I did
defense.
think, yeah, bro, it was a little bit of everything, man. And Miguel Cotto was one of very few people who was using that George Foreman defense where he bring the forearms up here
Yeah,
and he
he would
catch
go like
shots.
that. He would catch. He would
Yeah,
catch,
bro, I loved it,
especially with the
man.
southpaws. He would catch it like that a lot. And
Yeah,
Cotto,
bro.
another
Cotto was
move
a
Cotto
crafty
used to
dude.
do. He used to he used to switch. Like if we fight in the southpaw, he would change stances momentarily just to put himself in a position to land some big shots. Troy
Yeah,
King said Camacho had the biggest win over Ray. That was a big win, even though Ray was past his
yeah,
prime, but he stopped him. Nobody else up to that point stopped Sugar Ray. That's like somebody bringing Manny Pacquiao out of retirement right now and stopping him. That would be a big win. I wouldn't say the biggest, but that's definitely a big one for Puerto Rico. Camacho beating Sugar Ray.
yeah. Camacho Sugar Ray, yeah, for sure.
Sugar Ray was naturally bigger
For
than
sure.
Camacho.
Hell yeah.
Camacho started at
Camacho went
130.
all the way up to like 168, right?
Um, I don't know. I
Cama-
know the
Camacho had
last
went up to
time
like 68 and never been stopped.
The last the last big fight that he had, big money fight, was against Oscar De La Hoya. But I was watching his documentary on Showtime, and they were actually trying to build a fight between him and Roy Jones, but then he eventually pulled out of it because he wasn't really doing well. But they were trying to line him up for Roy Jones when Roy Jones was Roy Jones.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about that one. That's weird, but you know.
No, I don't think that would have been good for Camacho.
Nah, not a prime Roy Jones. I don't think anybody. There ain't too many people in history that's beating the prime Roy Jones. So
What's
this is
crazy
my
is
opinion.
same. I feel the same way when you think about Roy Jones in fantasy matchups. I don't got anybody beating Roy Jones neither. Prime for prime between 160 and 168. I can't think of anybody that could beat Roy Jones. Even though there might have been fighters that done more, but head to head, I don't see anybody from those weight classes beating Roy Jones at all.
Bro, it's just Roy. Roy was probably the most gifted fighter ever put on a pair of gloves. Man, his athleticism, speed, the twitch muscles, the reflexes, bro. Like he didn't even need a jab, and he rarely used the jab, and he still was able to find a lot of success. Man, they weren't able to deal with his speed. He would evade punches by a centimeter, bro. Like he was just very, very gifted, and they carried him through his peak years in his career. Ended up fucking him over towards the end when his reflexes and everything started to diminish. You know what I mean? But when he was at his peak, bro, he's one of the greatest I've ever seen.
His IQ was crazy. Even though he didn't have the fundamentals as far as like doing everything by the textbook, his IQ was there. Even though he dropped his
He knew how to
hands,
fight. Yeah,
yeah, his
he just
IQ
knew
was
how to fight.
tremendous.
Great instincts.
He had one punch knockout power too.
Oh yeah, yeah. If he
From
caught you with that
160 to
left hook or
168,
any of that
yeah.
shit, yeah.
I
I seen
remember
him
he
knock
fought
people out
Vinny
with both
Pazienza.
hands.
You saw when he fought Vinny Pazienza,
Oh
that
yeah,
whole it,
he brutalized Vinny, man. That was a bad joint, bro.
he was jabbing him up. He beat him the whole round. He did not get hit not one time.
He
Moving
did
up
Vinny
wasn't
so
good for
dirty.
Roy
I
Jones
got an
in his
autograph from
career.
Vinny Pazienza. That's a cool dude right there.
You know, Vinny Pazienza also lost to Camacho at 135 too. That was one of Camacho's best performances as well. If you look that fight
Mm-hmm.
up,
Yeah.
for sure.
Let's see.
So
Said
you,
moving up wasn't good for Roy later in his career. Yeah, because he went all the way up to heavyweight, put on all that muscle and then try to cut that muscle off to get back down to 75. It cost him, bro.
yeah,
It
he
cost him.
wasn't
He
the
was
same
never the
after
same
that.
after that. Never the
Even his
same.
punch resistance, because I wouldn't say Roy had a bad chin. I would say that that weight jump, losing that weight, that paid a lot to his punch resistance going down. Because up to that point,
That's
he'd been hit a few
definitely.
times. He took it. He took it well. When James Tony fought him, James Tony hit him a couple of times in that fight. But that weight jump and then losing that weight, that's what I feel
Yeah.
damaged him altogether.
Yeah, I think that overall weight cut from heavyweight back down to light heavyweight, I think that it got to the point where, because the way the body works is it takes water out of your system, water out of your system. But as you continue to work and there's no more water to pull out of your system, it starts to take fluid, like fluid that keeps your brain safe in your skeleton. I mean, in your skull. You know what I'm saying? So once you start to lose that fluid from your brain, and when you get hit with a shot and your brain hits your skull or whatever, it creates a lot more damage if that fluid's not in there to like, relieve that, how can I say that? What I'm trying to say is fluid, you could tell that he had some type of neurological damage because after that fight with Antonio Tarver, it seemed like the smallest punches that he would have been able to take earlier in his career were causing a lot of damage to him. You know what I mean? I seen him get hit with certain shots and like the way his body is stiffing up after he'll get hit and stuff like that, man. It was scary to see. You see what I mean? So it was definitely that weight cut, man. Cutting weight can be extremely harmful to your body, extremely harmful to your brain, and that's why a lot of these MMA guys, they will cut weight tremendously and then they will get hit with small shots in the octagon and just fall asleep. You know what I mean? Because their body has taken so much damage from the weight cut that it doesn't take much to uh, harm them. You know what I mean? They get real chinny after a bad weight cut. A lot of them MMA dudes, and I think the same thing happened with Roy for sure.
You know what I noticed? A lot of fighters, like some fighters, are more chilly in smaller weight classes, but then when they moved up in weight, they were able to gain more punch resistance. Example: let's look at Miguel Cotto, for instance. At 140, he was getting rocked by the Colombian boy. I forgot his name.
Torres
He got rocked by Chop Chop Corley, but yet he's
and
taking big
Zab
right
too.
hands.
Zab rocked Kodo a couple times
That
too
was at
with that uppercut.
147, but Cotto took it better though. He wasn't. He got
Mm.
rocked. He did because Zab would rock anybody. Zab to me is the
Zab
only
had
fighter
power.
that hurt.
No, Zab
Zab
could
hurt
punch.
Danny Garcia. He hurt Danny, in my opinion.
Zab could punch. I'm telling you, he could punch for
Me and
sure.
Troy was talking about that. Zab Judah got power. Zab when he fought Danny Garcia, he actually hurt Danny. In my opinion, he
At the
hurt
in the
Danny
later
more than
rounds, right?
Lucas.
You talking about the later
Yeah,
rounds when Zab went
the
on a
later
little run?
rounds, he
Yeah,
hurt him more
Zab,
than Lucas
Zab,
Matisse did.
yo, nah, he Zab like he turned back the clock in them later rounds, man. Cause Danny was doing him dirty in them early to mid rounds. Then towards the end, like Zab started to pick it up, and that was kind of shocking to see because Zab always had this stigma around him that he was like a 4 to 6 round type fighter. You know what I'm saying? So to see him turn it
Yeah,
up in them rounds is pretty dope. You
that
know what I'm
fight
saying? And
motivated that fight motivated him because Angel was talking crazy,
yo,
and that
that was
brought him back to the
personal.
past.
I had
Yeah,
heard some things. I had heard some things personally from Angel and them what they experienced after those press conferences. That shit was personal, bro. That could have
it
got real
was that.
ugly.
Yeah, Zab kind of slowed down. He became humble. Zab became a born again Christian. But Angel know how to talk crazy. Angel was
No,
talking,
Angel.
and he brought Zab back to Brownsville Zab, and Zab, even though he lost that fight, he did good in the late rounds. And Joni Faints, pardon me, says, I didn't know it was that deep. Good knowledge. Yeah, we historians, you know what I mean? We know what we talking about, man. I appreciate that. But so like I was saying, Miguel Cotto at 140 was hurt by smaller guys. He went to 147. He took good shots against Shane Mosley. He did not buckle at all. But then he fought Manny Pacquiao. He was weight drained. Every time Manny hit him, he was knocking him all over the place. But then when Cotto moved up to 160, he took some good shots from Canelo, and Cotto wasn't rocked at
That was at
all.
155, right? It was like a 155
155,
catch
the
weight.
catch weight. Yeah.
Canelo weight, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just like Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia was knocked down early in his career by
Rocky.
Rocky
No.
Martinez,
Mm-hmm.
but yet Errol Spence couldn't hurt him. Some fighters gain like more after no more cutting so much weight. You gain more ability to take punches. You feel
You,
more
but
stronger.
what's also crazy. Like what you saying is true. It seems like when guys move up, they're able to take a better shot, but they power diminishes typically. You see what I mean? Because if we go back to Mikey Garcia when he was at 126 and 130, he was a fucking ferocious puncher.
And
He was stopping.
135.
He was stopping and 35 because his biggest knockout was at 135 against Dejan Zlaticanin.
Yes,
He
that
had
was the
knocked him out for
highlight.
the WBC lightweight. Yo, they had to put an oxygen mask on him and everything. But it seemed like when he made that weight jump to 147, he had some respectable pop. Like he dropped Jesse Vargas and shit like that. But it seemed like it didn't have the same effect. You see what I
No,
mean? So although your punch resistance may go up, it seems like your punching power goes down. You feel me? Typically, from what I've seen. So
some
that's
guys carry
interesting.
it though because Roberto Duran
Yeah.
was someone who was able to carry that power. He carried it from
Hmm.
135. He was knocking dudes out at 147. He hurt Sugar Ray Leonard, and he knocked down Iran Barkley. Mind you, Iran Barkley, as an old man, was getting hit by everything against James Toney. Even though he lost that fight, he didn't go down. But in his prime, an old Roberto Duran was able to drop him. Roberto Duran was one of those type of punchers that was able to carry his power from the smaller weight classes to the higher weight classes. And I think Javante Davis might be one of those guys that might be able to do that.
Hmm. We got. I mean, Javante's been in what 3 separate weight classes already, and his power's still holding up. So yeah, I don't see Javante going past 47. Honestly, I think his power, but I don't know. I feel like there's a difference between them 40s and them 47s though. Like that 7 pound weight difference is like I don't know. When you look at the guys at 140, right? You look at the top guys at 140, you look at like guys like Regis, you know what I mean? You look at guys like who else you want to call like Roly, like those solid size dudes, you know what I mean? Pause. Let's not get it misunderstood. But then you go to 147 and you see big motherfuckers like Jerron Ennis. You see big you've met Jerron Ennis, correct? Big dudes, bro. Like you don't even know how the fuck they make 47. You know what I mean? And then you look at guys like Earl Spence. I met Earl Spence at the Barclays, and I'm like, bro, how does this dude look like he every bit of 5'9" and a half, 5'10", built like a super middle, bro? I'm like, bro, how are these guys making this weight? So I've seen Rolly, I've seen Regis, they big dudes. Let's not get it wrong. They big for 140. But them guys at 47 are significantly bigger than them. So it'll be interesting to see how Javante Davis' power would translate to 147 going up against bigger dudes who's boiling down from 170, 175 to get down to the weight class. That'll be interesting to see. If his power is able to affect them bigger guys at 147, that's very impressive
Do
for
you think
sure.
Javante Davis fighting Frank Martin might be a preparation fight for a possible Shakur Stevenson down the road, being that he's fighting the slick southpaw? Javante hasn't fought a black fighter, a slick black fighter. I'm sure he sees them in sparring all the time, but as far as at the actual fight, he hasn't fought a slick black fighter until now, and he's fighting the southpaw. And the
You
only
you
other guy
consider
is
you
Shakur in his
consider
weight
Frank
class.
you consider Frank Martin a slick fighter?
Yeah, yeah, I consider him slick compared to what Javante fought.
I
Absolutely,
mean, I mean, if we comparing them to them Mexicans and like overall Hispanic fighters that he's fought, yes. But I don't really look at Frank Martin as a slick fighter. I look at him like an Earl Spence, like he go like he gonna step. He a stepper, bro. I look at him as like a stepper. He gonna walk to you. You know what I mean? He got some fast hands. He got some athleticism to him. You know, he's different in that aspect in comparison to who Gervonta's fought previously. But Frank Martin not the type dude who gonna sit in the pocket and make you miss and show you all this crazy head movement. Like when I think of black slick fighters, I think of guys like Tevin Farmer. Uh, I think of guys like Shakur Stevenson who could sit right in front of you and make you miss and make you miss by by inches. You see what I mean?
Devin
Frank
Haney.
Martin, he's a high Devin Haney who's athletic and he has some slickness to him as well. Frank Martin, from what I've seen from him, is like it seems like the biggest part of his defense is his high guard. He catches shots real well. Doesn't really use too much upper body movement, but he's technically sound. Similar to Earl
That's the Derrick
Spence.
James style. Derrick
Yeah,
James style.
exactly. The Derrick James style. He's very similar to Earl Spence in that way. And I don't look at Earl Spence has athleticism, but I don't look at him as like a slick fighter. But in terms of using Frank Martin to get in preparation for Shakur Stevenson, I understand it, but only from the standpoint that they're both southpaws. You see what I mean? Besides that, I don't think they really fight anything alike. But if he wants to get a southpaw look to get ready for Shakur Stevenson, I understand it. But in terms of like style wise, I don't think that'll help him get ready at all.
But
But
I
I've
still
seen.
feel like that might
Okay,
be
go ahead.
possible. No, I feel like that might be a possible get ready fight. It's taking the page out of Canelo's book. Before Canelo took on Triple G, he took on
Chavez.
Chavez Jr. Yeah, it was coming
I was
forward.
gonna bring that up. Yeah, that's crazy. I was gonna bring that up. Yep.
Before Triple G took on Daniel Jacobs, he took on I think he took on he took on somebody tall. Rocky Fielding?
Nah, nah. He fought
No,
Jacobs
Liam
before that.
Smith. No. He took
Leon.
on somebody before Daniel Jacobs because I know
It was. I think he fought the bull Beefy. I forgot his name though. I think his name is like Liam something.
no Liam Smith was at 154. He took on Callum Smith, the brother,
But that
at
was at
168.
68.
But
Yeah.
he did take
He fought
somebody in
Jacobs at
between.
60.
Yeah, but he fought somebody tall before the Jacobs fight to help get him prepared. And I think that was
Okay.
Rocky Fielding because he won a belt at 168 and then he went back down to 160. And then eventually he went back up to stay at 168. Rocky Fielding. But nevertheless, I feel Canelo, and not to make it about Canelo, I think Canelo personally is using Jaime Munguia as a possible preparation for David Benavidez because he's a young fighter who throws a lot of punches,
I
who
hope you're
throws
right.
volumes. And let me tell you, based on, I hope I'm right too, and I'm going to be optimistic. Based on history, Canelo has fought everybody that people wanted him to fight. Maybe not at the time, but he fought them. So I'm going to give Canelo the benefit of the doubt and say that Canelo might be preparing himself for David Benavidez by fighting Jaime Munguia. I'm hoping I'm right, and I
I hope
believe
you're
that.
right. I hope you're right too, because that's the biggest fight to be made in boxing right now. Period. I don't think no fight that could be made right now will be bigger than Benavidez and Canelo.
You don't think
But
Buck Crawford Canelo is bigger than that?
fuck no, not at all. Because I think there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna be under the suspicion or the belief that Terrence Crawford don't really stand a chance. You know what I mean? Because he'll be moving up 3 weight classes now. People like me and you, we respect Bud. We know what he's capable of. We know where his skill set at. We understand that there's levels to this shit. So of course he may have a chance against Canelo Alvarez. But when people hear a 3 weight class move up, they're not too confident in the possibility that that man moving up is going to defeat somebody like Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean? They're not sure of what Bud is. They're not sure what Bud is going to be like at 168. We don't know what his punch resistance is going to be like. We don't know what his power is going to be like. There's a lot of things we will not know because he's never even gotten close to that weight class, and Bud has fought as small as 135 pounds in the pros. You feel me? So it's a lot of things that we don't know in that situation. However, we do know what David Benavidez is capable of at 168. We understand that he has a lot of things stylistically that could give Canelo fits. Is it a winnable fight for Canelo? Yes, it is. But we're not gonna sit here and act like David Benavidez doesn't have things that could be Canelo's kryptonite. For example, the
His gas tank
the gas tank. That's the biggest thing. But Canelo
output.
also has trouble with good jabs as well. We've seen him struggle with Triple G's jab. We've seen him struggle with Floyd's jab. I think Benavidez has one of the best jabs in boxing. I don't know if you consider that a hot take or what, but I think that his jab is fast, accurate, and it's stiff. You know what I'm saying? And he uses it consistently along with the combination of punches. And Canelo is somebody that likes to, reserve his gas tank for the later rounds. Working against David Benavidez, he's gonna have to be letting his hands go consistently throughout the course of 12 rounds. And we know that Canelo's gas tank is not built like that. And if he comes like he usually does, he might fuck around and drown in them later rounds against David Benavidez. So I think that with people knowing that, considering that it's Mexico versus Mexico type situation, I think that it's a bigger fight, man, because I think it's more of a possibility we may see Canelo lose in comparison to Terrence Crawford.
I think Canelo. I mean, Canelo's not going to step his output up. That's how he fights. But I think if Canelo places his body shots properly, he can take some steam off of David Benavidez and possibly slow him down. And Chris just said, I hope you're right because Canelo did say he won't fight another Mexican, but makes this fight happen, especially with the lack of Mugia accomplishments. Yeah, like I said, I think Canelo's gonna fight Benavidez, and I'm one of the minorities that think that Canelo could win this fight. Benavidez is tall, but Benavidez doesn't really fight a tall man's fight. He does have a jab, he does have some skills, but I don't really see him boxing from the outside. I could see Benavidez coming forward, being that he's tall. He does like to go to the body. He's gonna have to go to the body against a shorter fighter. Therefore, he's gonna have to bend his knees and put himself in range for Canelo's counter uppercuts and hooks. And I've never seen David Benavidez get hit with the type of punches that Canelo's going to hit him with. Is it going to slow him down? We don't know. But I like Canelo's chances. I think he should take that fight.
I mean, Canelo is definitely capable of winning. He's one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best. He's one of the most experienced, probably got the best resume in boxing right now, if we're speaking objectively. So
Definitely.
he could definitely beat David Benavidez. That's not a question. It's just, and this is the thing. You said that if he places accurate body shots, he may be able to break down David Benavidez, which is very true. You know what I mean? I've seen body shots break down the best of them. You feel what I mean? But the problem is that
You frozen. I think you got a phone call. He probably got a phone call. He definitely got a phone call. He froze right now. But yeah, we just talking boxing. We talking about Puerto Rico's best wins. We talking Canelo. We just talking boxing, man. Mazuma TV, another good YouTube channel. He talks real boxing, good technical boxing. Shout out to him. Shout out to Troy King. Shout out to Mill City. Punch Drunk Boxing. You know, a few channels that I rock with. You know what I mean? But he's frozen right now. I can tell. Obviously. Um, yeah, this is what we're doing. So let me know, any y'all in the chat, what y'all feel is the best win ever in Puerto Rican boxing history. Cause we had a lot of big ones. Real Boxing TV, salute, low nose, and panel. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just chopping it up. I don't really be doing lives like that right now, but I felt like talking some boxing. I was watching an old fight between Hector Camacho and Jose Luis Ramirez. That's a fight where Camacho dominated that fight. Jose Luis Ramirez is a tough Mexican fighter going into that fight. I believe his record might have been maybe 90-4, something like that. He went on to defeat Pernell Whitaker, even though it was highly controversial. But Camacho beat him way before Pernell got that get back. Chris said what made people believe that David can beat Canelo is the Bivol performance. Styles make fights. See, David Benavidez doesn't fight like Dimitri Bivol. Bivol fights from the outside. He's more of a European style fighter that fights primarily behind the jab. He likes to throw the 1-2-1. kept Canelo at bay. David Benavidez is more of a he could jab, but he likes to get inside and let off combinations, fast punches, hooks, and uppercuts. Therefore, he's going to be in range for Canelo's uppercuts. So I don't think that's going to be the same type of fight. Cotto revenge over Margarito was definitely one of the best wins in Puerto Rican boxing. I would say that's the most emotional win because going into that fight, the thought of Margarito possibly repeating that victory over Cotto was very scary. And I was worried about that. But Cotto did what he had to do. He beat Antonio Margarito. Whenever you have a Puerto Rican fighter having a victory over a Mexican fighter, that definitely has to go down as one of the better wins for Puerto Rico, being that Puerto Rico and Mexico has a well documented rivalry. Of course, in boxing, boxing is a territorial sport. The green print, like Floyd Mayweather says, when you got an African American fighter and a Mexican fighter, or African American and a Latino fighter, is always big. Yeah, you must have had a phone call, right?
Nah, my phone died, bro. That's my fault.
Okay, it's all good. Somebody in the chat kept on talking about Cotto Margarito as one of the better wins. And once again, I agree because Puerto Rico and Mexico, the rivalry is so historic. Whenever a great Puerto Rican beats a very good Mexican fighter or a great Mexican fighter, that has to go down as one of the better wins. Now, my thing is Margarito going into that fight was coming off of a layoff and he was coming off of that brutal beatdown to Manny Pacquiao. So I'm not going to say that it lost its luster, but if Cotto would have won the first fight, it definitely would have been probably top three or top five as far as the Mexico Puerto Rico wins. Puerto Rico wins, excuse me.
Yeah, that injury that he sustained from Manny Pacquiao, that orbital bone thing, I don't think he took enough time for that shit to truly heal. You know what I mean? Similar to what happened with you, Dennis Ugas. You know what I'm saying? When he got that eye injury from Earl Spence, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? He took some time off. He was under the assumption that he had healed, that he fought Mario Barrios and sustained the same injury. You feel what I mean? So those are one of those things that once you get one of those type things, man, it's gonna be very hard to overcome because it could be a recurring situation. And I think that's what happened with Manny Pacquiao. I mean, with Antonio Margarito. I think that Manny Pacquiao ruined his career. You feel what I mean? That's what I honestly believe, and I think Cotto really put the nail in the coffin after that fight. You know what I mean? It just seemed like Margarito was never able to like bounce back truly after that.
What you think about like Subaru Matias? Like right now, a lot of people are really backing this play, right? I think he's a good fighter, but I'm not gonna be one of those that's just gonna jump on the bandwagon because I had my heart broken by Puerto Rican fighters too many times. When Felix Verdejo came on the scene, right, he looked
That was my
special.
favorite fighter coming up.
Me too. And then he let me down. And then we also had Juanma Lopez. He was pretty decent. He
Hmm.
let me down. And then after that, I'm like, I'm cautious. So with that being said, we got Subaru Matias at 140 in the glamour division right now. If Subaru Matias were to fight Teofimo Lopez, who's my favorite fighter right now, if Subaru beats Teofimo Lopez in Madison Square Garden, would that go down as one of the best wins for Puerto Rico, especially after the things that Tio said, after the fact that Tio is a highly accomplished fighter? Do you think that would be a very big win for PR if Subaru were to pull that off?
Absolutely, because you got to really look at where Tiafimo is at. You know what I'm saying? He already had a loss to Cambosos and stuff like that, but Tiafimo has shown to be one of the top uh, guys in the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? He got a few great wins on his resume. Whether we talking about Kome, whether we talking about Lomachenko, Lomachenko at his
Josh
peak.
Taylor,
And yeah, following with Josh Taylor, his most recent big win. You know what I mean? So Tiafimo has shown to be one of them guys that rises to the occasion. He shows some great skill set. He's explosive. He's athletic. He's a generational talent. Tiafimo is. I do think that his mental gets in the way of his physical sometimes. Just thinking of how the way. I think that he really beat himself in that Cambosis loss. That's what I personally believe. But if he were to go up against if Supergirl were to go up against Tiafimo was actually able to defeat this man, then that'll really speak volumes because Teofimo is a top talent in the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? Teofimo is not somebody that is going to be a walk in the park for anybody, regardless if you have him being the underdog or the favorite. I don't see anybody having an easy time with Teofimo. So if Superel was able to do that, then that'll just confirm what I believe about him. You know what I mean? I think that he's a monster. I think Superel's a monster. He just needs the proper people in front of him to really prove that. And I think that with him signing with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and the big stable he has of 140 pounders, I think he'll be able to prove it too. So if he were able to defeat Teofimo, then a lot of them dudes at 140 is in trouble because there's not many people at 140 that's better than Teofimo.
Now the thing with Subaru, right? What I
Hmm.
do like about him, a lot of people say he's overhyped. My thing is I haven't seen him with an elite level guy. He did fight guys with good records, but those guys didn't beat nobody. But I do notice certain things about him that I do like. His defense is not that bad. Like he's not a Brandon Rios. He does subtle
Hmm.
things. He catches punches with his gloves. He
Hmm.
has underrated head movement. He got fast hands, but he's very basic. But he's not defensively responsible. He throws punches and drops his hands, and that's something that can lead to a devastating loss if he fights a guy that can counterpunch with power, like a Tio or a Javante Davis.
Hmm. No, that's a fact. But I typically notice that Superel does that once he feels like an opponent's not able to hurt him. Now that's wrong regardless. You know what I mean? That's something. But I've seen guys like Triple G do that. Like when you watch Triple G when he fought Willie Monroe, he was letting
Yeah,
Willie Monroe hit him. He was like, "Come on." You know what I'm saying? And Willie Monroe was letting all shots, and he was just confident in his ability to take a shot. So that's wrong. You know what I mean? You're never supposed to be letting nobody get no free shots on you.
no,
Period. But at the same time, that's that for somebody to be that confident in their ability to take a punch, that's dangerous for other guys. You know what I mean? Because when they trust their chin and their ability to take a shot, then they're willing to take chances that a lot of people aren't able to. And those chances they may take may be able to defeat you or be the reason why they may stop you or come out on top of a victory. You feel what I mean? So Superell, I do think he has underrated defense. You know what I mean? I think, like I said, he brings this hand over here. He catches on both sides pretty well. He slips shots and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of the shots that seem to be landing on him are really, landing on the gloves. I'm not sitting here acting like he Purnell or anything like that. He gets hit.
no.
You know what I mean, and when
You
you take
seeing
a
what
lot
I'm
of chances,
seeing? He got
if you
subtle
take
defense.
yeah, he got subtle defense. And when you take as many chances as Superell, you're gonna get hit. That's just what it is. That's the name of the game. That's boxing. You feel me? But I heard guys like Andre Ward say that Superell has underrated defense. So if Andre Ward is saying that,
I seen it. I was
you
watching it. But
see,
the thing with him
yeah.
that will make it dangerous against a Tio or a Devontae, Tio and Javante are not just guys that can punch. Those are guys that have that fast twitch power. They can hit
Hmm.
you with some punches that you don't see. They'll hit you in between the shot, like the way Javante caught Rolly, the way Tio caught Richard
Coleman.
Coleman.
Hmm.
Exactly. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm Puerto Rican and everything, bro. I'm not picking Subaru to beat Tio or Javante or possibly Devin, but I like his chances with everybody else though.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I respect that. Those are top guys. I feel like we got to see Tank more at 140. I only seen him fight one time at 140 against Barrios. You know what I mean? So I gotta see a little bit more of what he's capable of doing at 140. But stylistically, I understand where you're coming from. Now, Teofimo Lopez, I understand what you mean. He is a good counter puncher and stuff like that. But at 140 pounds, I, and Teofimo has tendencies in his game that I feel like will play in Superell's hand. Now, what I've been seeing lately in
What
Teofimo's
tendencies?
fights, he loses focus, man. He loses focus. It seems like he'll have shit in play, and then once he comes to he meets a little bit of resistance, it seems like he gets frustrated and he does things that go that can hurt him. Like if we watch that Jermaine Ortiz fight, you know, not only did it show his inability to cut off the ring, but like he will get frustrated to the point where he'll back up and let the guy come to him, and then he allowed Jermaine Ortiz to be successful at certain points because just Jermaine will walk up to him and let a combination go. and that might be enough to win him the round. Like he'll do a lot of things that could actually really hurt him, like that Cambosa's performance. I strictly think that was because he wasn't focused, man. I think that he allowed Cambosa to get in his head and make him fight a fight that he shouldn't have fought. I think that if Tio would have fought Cambosa's like how he fought Richard Comey, nice, sharp, and focused like that, I think he would have stopped Cambosa's, and he damn near almost did. You feel what I mean? So that I do believe that he's capable of beating Subriel Matias, but it's very hard to trust Teofimo Lopez when he gets to certain mind frames, man. Like I don't think that he's the most stable mentally. That's just what I believe. But like I said, he's a generational talent, and he's very capable of beating Subriel. He could beat just about anybody in the division if he's on his A game. But the problem is, we don't know what his mental is like, man. It's like a coin toss. You never know what the fuck you gonna
My
get
thing with him, what I notice
with
about
Tio.
him, when he's too caught up into trying to be a showman, trying to entertain people, that's where he could be a little distracted. When he goes in there just with the intentions of winning by all means necessary. Remember when he fought Lomachenko, there was no crowd. He was locked and loaded. There was no showboating. He was focused. When he fought Richard Comey, the same way. Josh Taylor, the same way. He started showboating later on once he had the fight already under control, because that's what he does. But with the build up for the Jermaine Ortiz, everything was about the showman, the showman, the showman. I think with Tio, he needs to just go in there with the primary goal of just winning the fight. Meaning if you can't hurt the guy, because a lot of times he's gonna hurt people, but if he can't hurt you, make it a boring fight and now box him. Because he got the athleticism and the boxing skills to make it a whitewash if he has to. So he needs to just go in there and focus on just winning the fight rather than entertaining the crowd. Let the knockout come. If you dominate the fight and you want to be a showman, you can do it. But go in there with the intentions of just winning the fight. Don't go in there with like I gotta put a show for the fans. Don't do that. Cause then you're gonna be disappointed when the guy is not cooperating with you.
Right, right. That's a fact. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I'm gonna come right back, man. I'm gonna let you rock out real quick.
No doubt. I'm gonna read some of the comments over here. I got Joni Fuentes. Tio isn't. Tio has the tools to be the best. Absolutely, he does. He has the athleticism. He got the skills. He has the punching power that Latin fighters have, and he has slick black fighter attributes. I agree on the Cambosa's fight. Yeah, I don't want to get into excuses and stuff like that, but it was documented that he also had some health issues as well. But we're not going to talk about that because once you step inside the ring, all the gloves is off. It is what it is. Let me see what else we got over here. Chris said, "Is the setup is the setup while punching for a hard shot for that makes Subaru dangerous?" Y'all can agree. Subaru Matias is a very dangerous fighter. I think Subaru Matias needs to learn how to use his jab more. Being that he likes to come forward with the high guard, he needs to take a page. He needs to take a page out of Ike Cortez's book. If you don't know about Ike Cortez was a fighter in the 90s who would come forward similar to Subaru Matias, but he would use that bazooka jab behind a high guard. He would get inside and let his punches off. Subaru Matias needs to learn how to come forward behind the jab, use his defense more rather than dropping his hands like Ike Cortez. Jackie Hernandez says, Matias is overhyped. I wouldn't say that Matias is overhyped. I would say that Puerto Rican fans, including myself, are so heavily anticipating the Puerto Rican champion. As soon as we see somebody with some success, we might get a little excited. I'm a little cautious though, because like I said before, I've been let down before. I was let down by um, Felix Verdejo. I was let down by Thomas Delorme. Edgar Berlanga was on the scene, even though he hasn't lost, he's still undefeated. But Edgar Berlanga was looking like Iron Mike Tyson, and he's not looking like that right now. So I'm not gonna jump on the Subriel bandwagon. I do like Subriel Matias, but I'm not going to turn against Teofimo Lopez. That's my favorite fighter at the end of the day. But Subaru against anybody else, I'm a root for him. I'm not gonna pick him against anybody. I'm not picking Subriel against Tank, and I might not pick him against Devin Haney neither. But I like his chances against everybody else at 140 for sure. If Subriel got a solid jab, it's a wrap. Him not having a solid jab had Jukamore getting too close. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if he would have had the jab, he would have been able to keep something at him all the time. So whenever Jukamore will come in, he can meet him with an uppercut, straight right hand, or he can just shell up, let him in, and start working him on the inside. Absolutely. I agree with that. Xander Zayas is quick, is a quick come up if they allow him to be more active, future world champion. The thing with Xander Zayas is he fights at 154 pounds. That's a very tough weight class. Usually, when Latin fighters move up to 154 pounds, they move up from smaller weight classes, like Miguel Cotto did, like Oscar De La Hoya did, Roberto Duran did, Felix Trinidad. So Xander Zayas is starting his career right now at 154. There's a lot of good fighters there. Not really big names, but you do have a lot of good fighters. So Xander Zayas is a fighter that's probably being moved a little slowly right now. They're probably waiting for some of the champions or the top guys to age a little bit before they match him in with those type of fighters. Anyway, I want to say thank you for everybody for tuning into the live tonight. You already know I don't really do this much, but I'm gonna do this more often because I like talking real boxing. Like I said earlier, the topic is what is the greatest win in Puerto Rican boxing history? We got a lot of good wins in the history of Puerto Rican boxing. We got Miguel Cotto beating Sugar Shane Mosley. We got Miguel Cotto beating Zab Judah. We got Wilfredo Gomez over Carlos Zarate. We got Felix Trinidad over Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, I could go on and on. So we're just trying to break it down and have a good educational discussion about this. And let me get to these comments because I'm about to sign off. I got to go to bed soon. Got to get up early. But the inside fighting with Xander is a problem because of his reach. He got some low blows. I mean, whenever you fighting on the inside, low blows can happen, especially if you're a long armed fighter and you go into the body. So you might go to the body, you got long reach. Instead of it going to the stomach, it might go a little, a lo huevo, tú sabes. I was, but when Zab lost, I was hurt when Zab lost. Let me tell you something. My biggest loss in boxing that I've seen live, where I was heartbroken, had to be when Trinidad lost to Bernard Hopkins. Prior to that, the most heartbreaking loss to me had to be Mike Tyson to Buster Douglas. But after that, if I saw Trinidad get beat the way he got beat by B Hop, man, listen, that was heartbreaking. Yo, Mark, welcome back, man. What was the most heartbreaking loss for you that you watched in boxing, bro?
Um, Most heartbreaking loss.
As a fan,
Damn.
yeah.
I'm gonna say, cause like I said, I was a big fan of Verdejo, man. So when I saw him lose to what was that, Nakatani?
That was the second loss.
Yeah, that was his second loss. That shit still hurt, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, cause
He was doing good too.
yeah, he was winning. He was hurting dude, dropping him and all, bro, and then just completely fumbled the fucking bag. So
Oh
that
my
shit
God,
hurt.
yeah.
Yeah, that shit pissed me off. That one, I'm gonna say, damn. I ain't gonna lie though. I thought I thought the Lubin loss to Charlo was that shit kind of rubbed me the wrong way because the way
You
he
was a
felt
Lubin
because he was a
guy.
young guy. He was a young guy and like the way he went out and how the way like how ugly he got knocked out, man. That was a bad job. But I wasn't the biggest Erickson Lubin fan, but probably the Tito and B Hop John hurt. You know what I mean? That one hurt too, man.
Cotto Margarita, one of them though, right?
I was never the biggest Kodo fan, but yeah, watching that, yeah, that hurt.
I didn't know that. Why you wasn't a Kodo fan?
I don't know, man, because growing up, I always used to hear bad things about Kodo, like how the way he used to treat the Puerto Rican people and shit like that. Like, of course, he had a big fan base, and like, Puerto Rico loved him and stuff like that. But I always heard bad things about him,
I didn't
how the
know
way he
that.
used to treat the fans and shit like that. Yeah, Kodo don't got the best reputation in Puerto Rico, believe it or not. He was just a
I didn't
phenomenal
know that.
fighter, so they used to back him because he was a good fighter and stuff like that. But I mean, if you ask around, Kodo's not the nicest to people. You know what I mean? I heard things about like him turning down like photos with like disabled kids and stuff like that. I heard a lot of things about Kodo, man.
I never knew that. I never knew that. I
Yeah,
wouldn't think that.
if I was to bring my dad on here, then you might change you might change your perspective on Kodo. And these
Yo,
all
one of my
facts. Like we're not making shit up. That really
yo,
happened.
one of my uncles, my uncle Wito, God rest his soul. He was the most biased pro Puerto Rican fan ever. I'm telling you.
Uh huh.
Whenever I had fight parties in Jersey, he would come over. Whenever I would talk about a Puerto Rican fighter losing, he would come up with an excuse for everything. I was like, yo, when I told him about Sugar Ray Leonard being Wilfredo Benitez, he would tell me, I swear, he told me Wilfredo Benitez was sleeping with Sugar Ray's sister.
He
He threw that
was.
fight. He told me that. And
No,
then
but that
Wilfredo go,
that no, Sugar Ray was married to Wilfred Benitez's sister.
oh,
That's what
that's
I
real.
heard. No, I heard that. Like that
No,
came
I heard
from a
the other
real
way
place.
around. I heard
No,
the other way
Sugar
around.
Ray. No, Sugar Ray Leonard was married to Wilfred Benitez's sister, I believe. So they was like trying to say. 'Cause I remember that they was trying to say that Benitez took a dive against Leonard, which I doubt.
No,
I mean,
I heard it was
that's
the other
cat.
way around. I heard Benitez was with Sugar Ray's sister.
Okay, let's look it up because I think
That's
my
what I
dad.
heard.
Okay, let me see. We found this out right now.
No, no, okay. Now we're doing boxing bochinche. Sorry. Sabe
Nah,
eso,
that's just
right?
something that I heard for real.
Now
Let
I
me
heard,
see.
I know what you heard, but from what I heard, it was the other way around. It was Benitez was dating Sugar Ray's sister. That's what I heard. So he laid down for his lady's brother. You know what I mean? That's what I heard.
Mm, okay.
I don't know if it's gonna be on the internet, but
Oh yeah. Let me see.
Chris said, "What was the
Oh
funniest
well,
fight
yeah,
build
yeah.
up for you?"
It says right here. It says Sugar Ray. Oh, okay. So it was the opposite. Sugar Ray Leonard's sister Sandy was once linked with boxer Wilfred Benitez.
There we go.
Years after the couple allegedly broke up. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So
There we
Wilfred
go.
Benitez. Okay,
To
okay.
answer Chris's question, what was the funniest fight build up for you? That's some good ones. I think Sugar Shane and Mayorga, the second fight when
All the
Mayorga he
Mayorga
grabbed,
ones, bro.
yeah,
Mayorga De
Mayorga,
La
yeah,
Hoya, Mayorga Cotto, Mayorga, Mayorga used to,
Trinidad.
Mayorga and Fernando Vargas.
They put the glass. He smacked
Yo,
Fernando Vargas.
bro, he
Fernando punched him
slapped
too.
him. Yeah, and then bro, they was on the
Yeah.
news. They was on the news talking, bro. And then he said that he was gonna have like his wife like clean up his house after he beat up on Fernand. Bro, he used to say some wild like bro. I think that if Mayorga, I think people didn't understand how good of a trash talker or how
Yeah,
disrespectful Mayorga was
yeah.
because he didn't know
Yo,
English. Yo,
real
bro, if he
rap.
was to say that
Fernando,
shit in
yeah,
English, bro, he was
he was out of
disrespectful,
pocket.
man.
He was
Yeah,
out
he
of
was
pocket for real.
very disrespectful. He was
Yeah, he
very
was.
disrespectful.
I forgot about that. Yeah, for real, for real. I saw a fight where he fought a black dude. I forgot his name, and they were having a face off. He played it cool, and then he went like that and chopped him in the neck. He fought some dude, but he chopped him in the neck at the press conference. Ricardo Mayorga, man, he was crazy.
Mayorga slapped Shane Mosley wife ass. He did
Yeah,
all
yeah,
types of
yeah.
shit. Yeah, he disrespectful for sure.
Yeah, to answer your question, Chris, there's a lot of them. Mayorga was involved in a lot of them Jones, for real, for real.
Yo, another good build up was uh um Angel Garcia and Amir Khan. They was going at it all crazy. Angel Garcia got a few Jones. He got a few
That was
Jones.
the introduction. That was the introduction to Crazy Angel for the
Yeah,
Amir Khan fight.
Jermel Charlo and Tony Harrison had a good build up.
Angel
Tank
and
Tank
Keith
and Rolly.
Thurman.
Yeah, yeah,
Angel and
yeah.
Keith Thurman.
Yeah. Rolly and Tank. They had some good build ups, man.
That's the one that
Andre,
actually got Angel Garcia banned. The Keith Thurman Joan.
yeah,
After that,
he was doing too much,
they
man.
they took the
That
mic away because he kept saying the N word. Like, come on, we in the East
yeah,
Coast,
like you and I understand, bro. I understand, like Ricans, we say that, but
in the
when
East
you're in
Coast.
front of, yeah, but when you're on like when you're being broadcasted to people all over the world, they're gonna take it different. So you got to approach it a different way. You see what I mean? You can't talk on a microphone on stage like how you talk amongst your people. It's two
No,
totally different settings. You know what I mean? Totally different personalities you in front of. You just gotta learn how to turn it on and turn it off, like Floyd say. You gotta learn how to turn it
Broner
on
and
and turn it
Paulie.
off.
Chris
That
said
was another.
Broner and Paulie. That was hilarious as
That's a
well.
good that was hilarious for sure.
That was definitely hilarious.
Ricky Hatton and Floyd Mayweather. That was a good one
Yeah, that was pretty decent.
because Ricky Hatton used to be right back at him and shit with the UK humor. That shit was pretty funny.
Floyd Mayweather was over there sticking his middle finger out at the crowd in the UK for that fight.
Hmm. That Floyd was hilarious, man.
You know what's cracked me up when Danny Garcia fought Zab Judah, right? They had the press conference when Angel went crazy, and then they had the incident at Foot Locker, and then the day of the fight, where they were at the Barclays Center, they locked Zab Judah up in the basement for the press
Yeah,
conference,
yeah,
and then he came outside. He came up
yeah.
and
Yeah. He
he
started
started
coming
flipping on
at
Oscar. They're like, yeah, he went to Oscar.
yeah, he started flipping on Bernard and Oscar. Yeah, I
Now,
remember that.
yeah. That was definitely a classic, man. Definitely for real. And of course, let's not forget Canelo Alvarez, even though it wasn't a build up, but it was the post press conference when he first started talking English. He started going off on Demetrius Andre. That was hilarious. That's when he
You
became
won that belt
Cartello.
with nobody.
That's when he became Cartello, man. Hector Camacho was crazy too, man. Real rap.
Oh yeah,
Hector Camacho, when he went off on when he was having the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard,
with his
and he threw
trainer.
water. He threw water on him. He said, "You fat bastard!" And he kicked the desk on him.
Yeah, Camacho wasn't somebody to play with outside of the ring. That's all I know.
No, Camacho was really who he says he is, even outside the ring too. Like I heard stories about Camacho in New York. Camacho really was.
Bro,
Yeah,
I helped Hector Camacho's son get ready for his last fight out in Delaware, bro. And Hector Camacho's son gave me a replica of the Camacho chain. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I heard stories about his pop. He looked exactly like his pop. That's the crazy part.
yeah.
So yeah, hell yeah. Camacho Jr. looked just like his dad. He just darker.
You ever seen
Just
the
like his dad.
documentary they had on Showtime?
Yeah. I did see that.
It was a
That
good
was
documentary, right?
when he was at the borderline and
That was the
all
funniest
that stuff.
part. When he
Yo,
was with
that
his
was
right hand
wild.
man at the border, he had
That
that
was
thing in the trunk.
wild. Yeah, he was like, "What's up with Chavez?" He said the border went crazy.
Yeah,
Damn. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
Camacho was a
Camacho was
wild
definitely a
dude.
legend.
But I was able to, fortunately, I mean, by the time I started training fighters, Camacho unfortunately passed away. You know what I mean? But I was able to work with his son. So that's a dope memory I had for
You fought
sure.
pro before?
No. I got involved. I got involved in the amateurs. You know what I mean? I started boxing a little late. You know what I mean? Because my dad never wanted me to box. You feel me? But I was always like ahead of the curve because my dad had taught me pretty much everything he knew. My dad was a former fighter, and like right before he had turned pro, he got in a bad motorcycle accident that he's still affected with to this day.
I'm
You know what I
sorry to hear that.
mean? Like, yeah. He had shattered both his ankles and busted rotator cuffs and all types of shit. Me, on the other hand, man, he kept me in every sport except boxing. So it's baseball, you know what I mean, football, um, but I was always a physical kid. I was too young at the time to understand the concept of football. But whenever I used to be on the line, I used to slam the people that was in front of me and stuff like that. So somebody had went up to my dad and was like, "Yo, your son should try wrestling." So my dad put me in wrestling with this Catholic school that was close by, and I ended up winning several national tournaments. So I won. I was running them up intercounty wrestling league titles and all types of stuff, man. So I was like 12 years old, and then after that, that school had shut down, and I didn't really feel like that. I didn't want to go anywhere else, so I left it alone. But I could tell you playing. I stood in sports, but then I got into boxing. Did a few fights. Did a lot of exhibitions. You know what I'm saying? And then I had got diagnosed with a chronic illness when I was 20 or 21 called ulcerative colitis. It's similar to like Crohn's disease and shit like that. So this is a lifelong illness that I got to deal with for the rest of my life. So with that being known, my health was such in a bad state that they had pulled my paperwork. I'm not allowed to fight anywhere. I wouldn't pass a physical. You see what I'm saying at that time. So since then, I fell into deep depression and all that stuff, man. Just trying to figure out exactly what I was gonna do because all I wanted to do was boxing. You see what I mean? So to get that taken away from you is upsetting. So, I stood in the gym, still training, I still sparred. I used to get guys ready for their fights. I help pros get ready for their fights, amateurs get ready for their fights. I was like the chief sparring partner in my gym because I wasn't able to compete. So I was like, what the fuck else I'm gonna be able to do? So then I had people like, I'll see like kids hitting the bag and stuff like that, and I'll give them little pointers, and then like the parents of the kids like gravitated towards me, wanted me to work with them. So I started doing like one-on-one lessons, and then all of a sudden, I got this other kid and this other kid. I got like all these kids that I'm training on some one-on-one shit. Um, and then when we opened our new gym in the neighborhood I grew up in, then I started like really training guys to compete. You know what I mean? And it's been up since then. So that's pretty much like my story, like in a nutshell, for real, for real. So,
And when I go out there next time, I gotta check you out at the gym, man. When I went out there last
hey,
time, I said I went to Bosie's gym. Bosie's gym. I want to pass by your joint next time I go out there. God willing, I want to go out there sometime. Hopefully, at the end of this month or early next month. You know what I mean?
hey, man, we in North, bro. We right there on Six and Somerset. You know what I mean? And I'm in there every day. You know what I mean? Monday through
My
Friday, I'm in
uncle,
there,
my uncle,
John.
rest in peace. My uncle had a house on front in Somerset back in the day. He died and shit. He died like in
Okay,
'91.
yo, my no, that's
Front of
crazy. My pop
Somerset.
from front of Somerset. He probably know your people.
Deal
You know what I'm
Richie,
saying?
yeah.
My
I
dad, my
remember when he
dad.
died. We went out there, we buried him, and then I was downstairs in the house. I was with his friends. We was watching boxing on HBO. They was Pernell Whitaker versus Jorge Paez. I remember that.
Yeah. Yo, my dad mom lived right on the corner of front of Somerset. She got that one crib right on directly on the corner with the 3 stories. So that John, you know what I'm saying? That's you probably my pop probably know your people though. If I was to call him
It's
right
bad
now, he
over there too.
probably
Yeah,
know.
my uncle Richie, man.
Yeah, so yeah, that's crazy. I
And
bet you
my
I'm
grandmother
willing
was
to.
on Hope and Cumberland.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I moved down here. I'm near like American and Cumberland. That's where I'm living right
Okay,
now. Yeah, I'm in North.
you see America.
American and Cumberland, like right around there. Yeah.
It was crazy. My grandmother's name was America. America Villanueva. Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
That's
man, I'm about to
dope.
wrap this light. About to wrap this up, man. Pleasure chopping it up. We
All
talk
right.
some real boxing talk. With that being said, what's your biggest win for Puerto Rico?
Mine's like I said, man. I'm gonna go with Wilfred Benitez versus what was it? Antonio Cervantes.
Yeah, that's what you said
Did I say
because of
that right?
the world record.
No,
Yeah,
I'm saying I'm making sure I'm getting the name right. I don't want to fuck it up. I be fucking up
Antonio
names
Cervantes,
sometimes.
Kid Pambole. Yeah, I
Okay,
remember him.
Antonio
Yeah,
Cervantes. Yeah, I feel like that's the best win for Puerto Rico due to the fact that it was one of the most historic things to ever be accomplished in boxing. Wilfred Benitez did that at the age of 17 during the 15 round era and went up against not just a title holder like you said, but a killer. You know what I'm saying? And was able to get the nod. He was able to get the
he's a
W,
Hall of
and
Famer, bro.
that's bro. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. So this isn't just like some regular guy who just had a title.
No,
You know what
no,
I mean? And
no.
he earned it. He got it the hard way at 17 years old. You know what I mean? And that's a record that's still being held to this day. that still
Exactly.
holds up to this day.
Fighters
Whenever
might
you
get
bring up,
lucky to turn pro at 17. He won a championship.
yeah,
How many
and he
control?
won a
Yeah,
title at 17 years old. He was able to accomplish that, and I don't think that's a feat that'll be broken anytime soon. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't think that there's no. I don't think anybody will be able to ever break that. You know what I'm saying? That's just my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Puerto Rico has a lot of great wins, but I just feel like that one right there is probably the most historical one. That's the one that's gonna be in the history books forever. You know what I'm saying? And I think that because it's so meaningful, I think it's the best win in Puerto Rico history. That's what I think.
now, if you look up the greatest, if you go on Google and look up what are the greatest junior welterweights of all time, you're going to see Antonio Cervantes on that list. So that goes to show you the type of champion that Benitez beat. Now, my pick, I'm torn between two of them.
Okay.
One of them is Wilfredo Benitez over Roberto Duran, right? Because of
Hmm.
who Roberto Duran is. But then I got to think about the better version of Duran was the one that Esteban de Jesus defeated, even though it wasn't for a world title. It did get him a win. And Esteban de Jesus did become a champion and he did fight Duran two more times. So they had a trilogy. So for me, Esteban de Jesus as a huge underdog, defeating Roberto Duran, who's regarded the greatest lightweight of all time, and he beat him and the only fighter to beat him at lightweight. For me, that's the biggest win in the history of Puerto Rican boxing.
I respect that, man. A lot of great wins for Puerto Rico, man.
Definitely, man. Pleasure chopping it up. We gotta do this again, man. Real boxing talk, low nose boxing. Masuma TV. Tell them where they can find you at, man.
I mean, y'all can find me at Mazuma TV on YouTube. You know what I mean? We on the road to 2K, man. We about to crack that 1800 mark. You know what I mean? So, shout out to Lo for bringing me on his channel. He gave me the call just a couple out, like an hour before we went live, and you already know that's I respect Lo. You know what I mean? I respect his boxing mind and stuff like that. And he a good dude overall from what I've seen from him. So I'm always support him and whatever he got going on YouTube, just like I do with everybody
Likewise.
else that's in my circle. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Low. Whenever you want me on the channel, just give me a call. You got my number. You feel what I mean? And we can continue chopping it up, man. It's always great to
Vice
talk to
versa.
people who got a boxing mind like myself. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people nowadays that don't know boxing. So to hear somebody who actually knows something, man, it's like therapeutic in a way when you're able to, speak about something you passionate about. You feel what I mean? But shout out to
Absolutely.
Low, man. Shout out to Low. Shout out to Low Nose Box. Shout out to people that's in the chat right now, man. I'm about to go live on
Shout
my
out to
channel
everybody in
right
the
now.
chat, man.
You know what I mean? So, I'm gonna get up out of here, man. You be safe, all right? And whenever you want
God
me back
bless,
on the
man. Y'all
channel, just give me
enjoy.
a call. Give me a call,
You
give me a
got it,
text,
champ.
whatever. We in here.
You
All right,
got it,
baby.
champ.
I'll holler at you.
Everybody, we out.